Welcome to the relaunch of In Her Company, a global platform for women, showing you how she built it, funded it, and lived it. I am so happy to be relaunching in Women's History Month. I am In Her Company's founder and creator. My name is Chris Vaughn. I am an author of Twisted Stories and a consultant to multi-passionate women with huge vision. We are here discussing structures and frameworks with LaMar, founder of Curvy Betty Wines. Lauren has handcrafted her own Pinot Grigio and Cabernet Sauvignon wine collections, a journey that began with sheer determination and a passion for quality wines. She is with us today to share her experience, overcoming learning curves, and how she created space for herself in an industry saturated with history and tradition. We are as excited as she is to see what doors open for her next. Lauren, welcome to In Her Company.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing good. I'm excited to have you to help us kick off the relaunch of In Her Company. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here today and to discuss the wine and to discuss Curvy Betty Wines and how I exactly got to this point, and hopefully others can too.
Yes. And that's one of the things that I really liked when we first met was that you were willing to help people along their journey. And, that just goes to show proof that great things do happen when women gather. But, as you and I both touched upon, wine is a very old industry. It has a rich history containing family lineages, notable vineyards, and events that are steeped in centuries of tradition. What led you to enter the space?
I would say that I was so passionate and I really wanted to enter the wine space because I was serious about creating premium wines that would be quality wines that wouldn't give people hangovers in the morning. A diverse collection of wines that people would love, that are rich and great tasting. I was very passionate about creating wines, and this allows me to reach a multitude of different people, share my story with them, and hear theirs as well. So I understand that it's rich in history, and that the family lineages go far back with the vineyards and great vineyards such as Brown's Estates and other vineyards in North Carolina and Georgia and all over the place, but creating a wine is something that's very specific, and you have to be passionate about it. That's the first thing. You have to love it, be a wine connoisseur, or like to try different wines. And Curvy Betty Wines definitely gives people a chance to taste different wines and find out what they like.
Yeah. Do I understand correctly that you even have one that's based on coffee?
Yes. I have a coffee-flavored dessert wine coming out, and that's going to be dropping very soon, actually. And you can inquire about that on my website or on my Instagram platform. And I'm really excited about that because it's actually 18% alcohol volume, which is actually pretty significant for a wine. Most wines are close to 8%, maybe 10%. So at 18% wine, that's very good. And, this happens, of course, when there is a good amount of sugar in the wine, and the sugar attracts to the yeast, and that creates the fermentation process and the alcohol volume that's going to come out in that wine. And it tastes absolutely delicious. I've already tried a few samples of it, and I can't wait to share it with everybody.
Yeah, I'm sure our listeners can't wait to try it either because, it's one thing. Wine is definitely known for bringing people together and for them having great conversations. But when you're at it in a coffee crowd, you're getting, an expansion of that conversation. I'm sure that they will definitely be interested in that. Kudos to you, though, for also recognizing that even within the steep history and these long traditions that history doesn't end just because this is what we've read in a book, that you saw a place for yourself as part of a continuation of that history, so to speak. So one question that I would want to ask you is, how has your experience as a woman of color in the industry been, or has it been a factor at all? Meaning, do you feel that being new to the industry has been more of a factor?
I would say that winemaking, wine sales, it's definitely not a market that has been built for women of color. And it definitely has been a factor for me when trying to pitch my wines and trying to, collaborate with other prestigious country clubs and things like that. And it's a little bit hard, and I have experienced some pushback being a woman of color. But you kind of have to put all of that aside, and you have to reach out and not stop, and don't stop reaching out. Reaching out to people that will possibly be interested in your wine. Or if they're not interested, make them interested. Let them know what you have to offer, and let them know what you can bring to the table. Let them know the great taste and the great flavor of your wine. Let them try the wine. And hopefully they'll be more interested and willing to get on board. But as a woman of color, it's definitely been a little bit of a hardship to get into this industry fully. And I mean, I've been so appreciative for, the opportunities that have come my way thus far. And I pray that I just can continue to create great wines and continue to step into the industry and in a full force.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing you say is, let your work and let your product speak for themselves, but to just keep it pushing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would think another important thing would also be to not enter any arena or any gatherings, for that matter, with preconceived notions about who will and will not accept you, because you may actually be surprised. You never know where you will find your champions.
Yes, exactly. I definitely agree. And you never know, so you can't have any kind of, preconceived about anybody, because you don't know where your next breakthrough is coming from.
Exactly. And I've heard plenty of cases, not in the wine industry, but just along the course of helping women as they develop their businesses, that maybe one person who totally blew them off at one moment, couple of years later, they've watched them and they weren't even aware of it. And they come back and it's like, okay, now the time is right. You never know if people have something that they're dealing with and some pressing matter that they really can't afford you the time, or sad to say, even the respect at that moment. But, we're flawed humans. That doesn't mean that in the future, maybe the circumstances change, or even you yourself have a better idea of what it is that you're doing and where you're headed, that those relationships may actually line up. One of the things that's clear when you speak is that you definitely have a passion for your industry, which is what sparked the idea. But how did you shape your idea into an actual workable plan? Because we're talking about, structuring the visions, and the women who are listening to this show have, huge visions, great things that they want to accomplish, and an impact that they have. And so entering the wine industry is, huge in itself. But how did you actually formulate a workable plan, and what vision did you set at the outset?
So as I said before, I definitely have a deep passion for wine. I always have. And I decided that I was going to create a name for myself, and a name and a brand that could reach out to so many different people. And I created this plan by first generating an idea that reach out to so many people and how do I say this? Reach out to so many people and get them excited about the brand. And I wanted to create some kind of excitement behind it because, nobody likes a dull, boring wine, and nobody is going to believe in a plan that actually doesn't have structure behind it. And I just created structure. I put a business plan into play. I set a vision for myself, and I set goals for myself, reachable goals, and got to them and reached them. And it took a little bit of time, but I eventually, attended, vendor events, and I sold to catering events. And, that was something that I was really serious about doing because at first I didn't have too much of structure. I was doing door-to-door sales, and that was difficult when trying to get my name out there. That was very difficult. But when I started to put the plan into action and actually sell multiple cases and reach out to multiple people and kind of broaden my scope in the way that I work, it definitely did help the business.
Okay, so you began with what you knew how to do, and by getting out in front of the people, because you mentioned you wanted to create a name for yourself and, of course, a name and a presence for the brand. So the door-to-door sales allowed you to get feedback and also to shape things as you went along, correct?
That is correct. That's exactly what that's what I was trying to get at here.
No problem.
I was selling, individually, and I still do sell individually for people that are interested. I market my wine on all types of platforms, but I'm definitely interested in people understanding and knowing where Curvy Betty comes from, and that Curvy Betty is more than just a wine. It's magic. It's magic in a bottle. That's what I always say.
Wow. Okay. Now, my next question is somewhat related to this, but it's a little bit different. We know that the vision can be overwhelming, especially when you're trying to create this brand recognition and what you want people to say about your brand as well, or even, you and your own work ethic. But with your plan in place, how did you go about providing the structure for your vision? In other words, what 3 or 4 elements did you see as key to helping you anchor this massive undertaking into place?
Right, exactly. And it's very complex. Winemaking is very complex, and, wine sales are very complex. So the first thing I did was I structured a business plan, and I set a vision for myself, what exactly I want to see happen in the next 5 years. And of course, that always is going to be altered. That always changes with time. But at least setting a vision for myself gave me a little bit of clarity and of the direction that I was trying to go in. The second thing would definitely be marketing. Marketing is very important. And you got to figure out what platforms are necessary for you. And I figured out what platforms were going to be necessary for Curvy Betty. I wasn't going to be able to just put out Curvy Betty on solely just Instagram. I had to create, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, website, be featured on different online platforms, just to get the name out there, to let people know about Curvy Betty wines and all that it has to offer. The third thing I would say definitely to have with any business, especially not just Curvy Betty, but wine business, to have knowledge of the business. When I first began in 2018, the knowledge was a little bit foggy for me. I knew that I loved wine. I knew that I was passionate about wine, but all of the ins and outs of the winemaking process, the stabilizing, the fermenting, the degassing, the clarifying, the labeling, the bottling, it was very complex, and it took a little while to learn and to catch on. And I would say to anybody out there looking to start a business that do not get discouraged. Do not get discouraged by maybe having a lack of knowledge at first, because that's okay. You will learn on the way, and you will learn as you continuously put time into your craft, and you continuously, read books about it, attend events, talk to people that are also in your business industry as well, and people that have done this in the past before you, and just like-minded individuals, and that'll really help you.
So putting your passion into action, basically, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Putting your passion into action, to not just sit on the idea, because, we can come up with ideas in our head all day long, but to actually, we can sit and we can think about ideas, and, ideas are great. That's why we have brains, so that we can think about, different things, but we can't just sit on ideas. We have visions, and we were all given a vision, and we're supposed to go forward with it. And the fourth thing that I did was I had to learn to believe in myself and believe in the brand, believe that Curvy Betty can be something great and will be something great and is something great. And that's what I really had to believe. I had to stop believing that I couldn't take it to the next level, that the people around me couldn't help me, because of course they can. The people around you can help you, and ultimately you have to help yourself.
So touch a little bit more on that aspect alone. What do you mean that you had to learn how to believe in yourself, or learn to believe in yourself and the brand?
Well, all my life, I've kind of, underestimated even myself. Even, we hear things, and maybe we're not, educated enough, or we don't have enough money, or we don't have enough time to do this, or we don't have the platform, or we don't come to a family that, has a strong background and can take us to the next level. But it's not dependent on that. Like, your success is not dependent on anybody else, but what you choose to do, and who you choose to reach out to, and who you choose to collaborate with, and how you choose to grow. It's all up to you.
Totally agree. Yeah. There are still, you run across conversations, and people talk about what someone is or is not going to let them do. I think that those let conversations, as I call them, have to do with what are you going to let yourself do? Mm-hmm. How are you going to let yourself get out of your way? Because perseverance is something that you learn, is something that you earn, and is something that you yourself gave an example, something that eventually you'll have to master. And just as you get over one hurdle, there's, something new, because things change, business change, industry change, people change. Mm-hmm. But it's that fortitude within yourself. So, those let conversations, it's like God never placed anyone over you. So, can we get out our own way, and can we just continue to go forward and to let ourselves be, as great and everything that we were created and put here to be, versus, what somebody else is going to so-called let you do. So with your structure in place, and I think I know the answer to this, but you never know. now that you've had some experience and you were gaining an experience, you're gaining an industry knowledge, getting feedback, from the market along the way, did having a structure in place make the execution of your vision easier, or did you have to change up the framework any?
I absolutely can say that the structure made the execution easier. As I said, I had a vision in mind, but being able to grow my platforms, being able to figure out what platforms people are most attracted to, and ultimately getting knowledge of the business has helped me tremendously in going forward. And having a knowledge of winemaking, of where the grapes come from, and all of that, it was very helpful when sharing my story, when talking to people, when explaining the process, and of course with marketing as well. And as I said before, with the wine business, or any business, really, you just need to know a little bit about the business. And, as time goes on, you learn more and more, and it makes you more confident. Knowing more about the business just builds your confidence, and you're sure. It creates a certainty, and that's a good feeling. And I feel like that alone did help me execute more and better.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine, especially when you go into other circles, being able to discuss the industry and what you do intelligently and knowledgeably lets people know that you are serious, regardless of if you're just entering the space or if you've been in it for a while. But it helps them relate to you and helps them take you as even more seriously as well. So opens the door to relationship, because it's great, as we said. This is a perfect example of what passion looks like in action. But your discussion contributes toward not only representation of yourself, but of your brand as you go into these spaces. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the learning curve?
No. As I said, there's a lot that goes into the business, and a skill. The ultimate skill with the winemaking, I would say.
Why don't we take this from a different one? Because I know you're thinking like, oh my gosh, what can I say about the actual winemaking process? But why don't we approach it from this aspect, which is you had this huge vision, as with, many of the women that I work with, they have huge visions for impact. And so sometimes, whether we're male or female, we don't enter a space or don't think we can, because we see where we are or where we perceive ourselves as being, and we see where we want to go. So you mentioned earlier in our conversation that you saw the knowledge and it was a little bit overwhelming, but you decided to go ahead and let your passion drive you forward and tackle it. So when the learning curve, what are some things that you could say to people, regardless of the space that they're entering, that would encourage them to go ahead and just step out and do it anyway?
I would say that when having a vision in mind, and you should absolutely go for your goals, regardless of, the doors that may be, shut in your face, and regardless of the lack of opportunity that you feel like you may have in any given situation, that it doesn't stop there. And if you want something bad enough, you will you'll move forward and you'll make it happen for yourself and for the people around you.
Yeah, because in just venturing out itself, you've already opened a door that wasn't before, and perhaps that'll make a way for you as you just continue to move forward.
Absolutely, and as I said before, there's been difficult moments, but most of the experiences that I've had with Curvy Betty, I can say have been positive, have been helpful. People have reached out, and people want to become a part of this great movement. They see that it's such a great thing to start a business and to create something and to, as you said, put your passion into action. And when they see somebody or a brand that's taking off, it makes people just want to be a part of it. And your personality and who you are also sells the brand as well. And I believe that that's really important. And I believe that you should always put your personality, at the forefront and let people know who you are.
Yeah, that is so key, because if you didn't have, an approachable aura around yourself, if you didn't have a personality that would draw people to you, then it'd be kind of hard to reach your goals, I know some brands thrive off of aloofness, but not as much nowadays, because even those areas are changing and realizing that if they want to continue on for another, 2 or 3 centuries or however long that they've been in, that they need to change the way that they invite people into their experience. And I know our listeners, so we've been talking about Curvy Betty Wines. And I know our listeners is like, okay, can you tell us how she came up with the name? So Curvy Betty Wines, does it hold any particular significance, or is this one of the names that you're like, hey, I like that. That sounds awesome?
Well, first the name is super catchy and great. Curvy Betty Wines definitely is. But I wanted to create a name and kind of an imagery that embodied the reality of not just the women in my family, but the strong women of all shapes and sizes that are independent, sexy, and poised. And that's who Curvy Betty is. Curvy Betty is that woman that walks into an event and just pours a great glass of Curvy Betty wine that creates memories. And that's who Curvy Betty is.
I like that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. So it wasn't your great Aunt Betty or anything like that?
I do have an Aunt Bertha.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And she's definitely a Curvy Betty for sure.
Yeah, that would have kind of a different ring to it. Curvy Bertha Wines. It's like, I don't know. That's not to say your aunt is a great person, though, of course.
Right.
Yeah, because we run the gamut, and there is beauty in every woman. And sometimes, I'm a tea drinker to my heart. I drink only loose leaf teas, but, I can just see this, that so many women are going to be able to just embrace this and be proud. And I've seen some of the photos on your social media profiles as well. And they're excited, and happy to be holding this new product in their hands. And, it just looks like fun. So the sexy, the poise, and the independence. From what I see, women are making this their own. And, I'm sure that maybe this is some of what you had in mind when you named it this.
Absolutely. I wanted a way to, let women know that they can do it too, that, Curvy Betty is for them and Curvy Betty is for everybody. It's not just for females. It's It's for the guys too, and Curvy Betty is just amazing. And when you try it, you'll definitely agree with me.
Yes, yes. And I'm sure you're going to give our listeners that opportunity to do so. But some of our listeners may also be connoisseurs or, like yourself, simply like a good wine from time to time. So can you share with us what are two of your favorite pairings that our listeners may also enjoy?
Okay. Well, I do have the Curvy Betty wine Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's rich and it has a full taste, and it has Hungarian oak in it. And myself, as well as some of the other customers, always say that they enjoy this most with red meat, steak, pork chops, things like that. And I definitely can agree to that. It tastes great with those things. And it also, I have a Valpolicella that tastes very good with sharp cheddar and sharp cheddar blocks or, cubes. So it tastes very good with cheese and crackers and things like that. You'll definitely like that. The Valpolicella definitely gives that off. That's a 13.5% alcohol volume as well, and it's delicious. One of my best sellers. And I also have a Pinot Grigio. And Pinot Grigio is a very light, crisp taste, and that goes well with any kind of chicken, poultry, salmon, things like that. And I would say those are great pairings for those wines. And the dessert wine, you can have that with anything. The dessert wine is great. It's a sweet taste and coffee flavored, and who doesn't love coffee? So.
The tea drinker. No, I'm just. Oh, wow. Okay. And, it's when you say dessert wines, I can't help but to think something that I told a group of students that maybe made it a little bit harder for their parents, but it was well intended, and that was there's always room for dessert because you eat dessert first. So, yes, dessert goes with anything.
Absolutely. Dessert goes well with anything. You always have room for dessert.
Yes.
You don't have to choose. You can always have it with your dessert.
See. So she's not trying to help you either, y'all. So tell us, Lauren, what's next on the agenda for you? And do you have any final words of wisdom for others who are about to venture off into their own path?
Yes. So next on my agenda, I have a workshop coming up in the summer. So be on the lookout for that. It's called Sip Like a Boss. And I'm super excited just to incorporate that event and bring people on that are truly interested in winemaking. That's definitely my passion, and I want to share that passion with everybody else as well. And also, final words, keep following your dreams and don't stop. Even if there's a setback, always set goals for yourself and go to reach those goals. Do whatever you have to do to reach those goals. It may involve some sleepless nights and early mornings, but it's definitely well worth it to follow your passion and to follow your dream. And you guys can follow me on Curvy Betty Wines on Instagram. That is at Curvy_Betty_wines. And I'm also on Facebook on Curvy Betty Wines, and I am featured on We Buy Black. And that's about all for now.
It's never all. We are definitely going to follow your success. I'm even excited about the Sip Like a Boss workshop. And, for anyone listening, if you ever had any interest in creating your own wine, this is definitely the workshop that you would want to go to. So just, keep an eye out for that and follow Lauren, at Curvy Betty Wines, as she mentioned. But yeah, you want to make a note. Just plan to attend a workshop this summer if you're serious about it. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be an exciting relaunch. We're excited for the doors that will continue to open for you as well. And, looking forward looking forward to just following your journey. So thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners for joining us for this first episode in the relaunch of In Her Company. I hope you will join us offline for our monthly gatherings over tea. Our next Women Tea Social is Saturday, March 28th at 9 a.m. And also our first opportunity for Impact this year kicks off March 1st. Submissions are open for our anthology supporting trafficking survivors and those who've aged out of orphanages. Details on both and registration can be found at chrisvaughn.com. Also, if you are interested in being a guest or sponsor for this season, please contact us via the same. Till next time, this is Chris Vaughn, looking forward to being with you again in her company.